podcast about something where each week we dive deep into whatever it is we find interesting. I'm your host, Calvin, and joining me from the Palace at Auburn Hills, it's your co-host, Nick Richardson.
Hey, I have a lot of malice on the mind.
Ooh, that's a good word to use because we're specifically talking about the Malice at the Palace, the seminal 2004 NBA brawl between the Indiana Pacers and the Detroit Pistons.
Also known as the Malice in the Palace.
In the Palace, at the Palace, around the Palace. They
Malice
were there.
Palace.
Malice Palace.
Yeah,
I always thought it was Malice synonymous. At the Palace. Is it Malice in the Palace?
That's what I thought it was Malice in the Palace.
Oh, now I gotta Google it. I've been researching it for the past 2 days, but
I was looked at it like the Thriller in Manila.
On Wikipedia, it's titled Pacers Pistons Brawl, known colloquially as also known as Malice at the Palace and the Basket Brawl. I don't know why I can't say that word.
Huh.
I can normally say colloquially. There it is.
Dude, you're having a hard time here, bud.
Whew. Anyway, we're talking about what happened, who was involved, where are they now, everything that we can about Malice in the Palace, at the Palace, around the Palace, near the Palace, under the Palace, wherever it is. And we may talk NBA All-Star 2020 at the end of this, or we may save it for a bonus episode that will be released tomorrow. We don't know. It depends how long this goes.
Yeah, long wait, we know.
So, as we said, this happened November 19th, 2004, Pacers versus Pistons. Now, this was a big rivalry in 2004, which I didn't, I think I probably knew about it then, but thinking about it now, I didn't really remember that. That, these teams had some bad blood at this point.
Yeah, I feel like the Pistons always have a beef with someone.
Well, especially during that time. Yeah, this was the Bad Boys 2.0 of the Pistons era, as you will. They just won the championship. They kind of trounced the Pacers the year before in the playoffs. And this was the first time that they met since the year's previous playoffs. And, I watched this. I'll talk about it more in depth later, but I watched this video that's basically a Showtime basketball show called All the Smoke, featuring Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, which Steven Jackson was a part of this. Two notorious fighters and weed smokers. So they did this thing. It was on the 20th anniversary or the 15th anniversary, so it was only a couple months ago that they did this thing on it. And he said he had just been traded or signed in free agency because he was on the Hawks the year before. And he didn't even know that there was this rivalry. He's just in it, and there was so much talk and chippiness going on throughout this game, not just when this happened. It was a building thing that kept going, and he said it was pretty serious, and he didn't really know what to do with it because he wasn't a part of it because he didn't have any of that history with either team. He only played for the Pacers for a month and a half at that point.
But he didn't give a fuck, though. That dude was going nuts. But
now, Steven Jackson was there to fight when it went down. Let's say that.
I mean, hell yeah. He was just oh, you breathed on me. What's up, dude? What's up, dude? But they, I think it was a big man rivalry, really, because the Pistons had several just really good big men. Ben Wallace, really
Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah, Rasheed Wallace.
Well, I was going through this, and at first I'm looking at it, and I'm like, how is Rasheed Wallace? Because I'm just looking at, there's 9 players total involved. So it was from the Pacers, Ron Artest, Steven Jackson, Jermaine O'Neal, David Harrison, whoever the fuck that is, Anthony Johnson, Reggie Miller, and then from the Pistons, Ben Wallace, Chauncey Billups, Derek Coleman, and Eldon Campbell. And I'm like, how's Rasheed Wallace not mentioned in this? Was he not a part of their team? I couldn't remember exactly when he came onto their team, and I'm like, he must have not been there. And then as I'm watching the videos over and over again, I'm like, oh yeah, he's there.
Yeah, he
just didn't get any suspensions or anything like that.
Didn't come off the bench. He stood on that chair like a motherfucker.
No, that's not true. The only person that didn't come off the bench was Tayshaun Prince. I read that somewhere. And he's the only one that stayed on the bench because there was a rule, and I think the rule still goes today, but it was a recent rule at that point that if during any altercation you left the bench area, which it was it's like a box around the bench, basically an imaginary box. If you leave the bench area, you're suspended for the next game. So Tayshaun Prince was the only one that didn't leave. Every other player was out on the court when the initial fight happened, and then some of them went into the stands. But Tayshaun, way to bitch out on your teammates.
Hell no, I'd be doing the same thing. It's shit, this is gonna cost me $750,000 if I sit out. I don't know about that much.
But for him, yeah, it was.
Probably
Well, he was around
closer.
Chauncey Billups. Let's look at what Chauncey Billups' salary, one game salary, because Chauncey was one of the ones that missed one game. And I wrote
60 grand.
Yeah, so I'd say Tayshaun, maybe a little more than that. Yeah, 750 is probably high.
Yeah, just a little. Just a little.
maybe 70.
70 sounds about right, but 70 grand either way.
Yeah.
I could buy 3 pre-owned Priuses.
Exactly. I just remember the next year, or it was probably this year's playoffs, 04-05 playoffs, the Suns got caught by that rule really hard when I want to say it was Manu Ginobili or Tony Parker. It was one of the two of them, just completely shoulder dropped Steve Nash in the nose and gashed his nose open. And Amari Stoudemire, Boris Diaw, and Sean Marion all left that bench area and got suspended for the next game, and then they lost the playoff series. So I remember it was a big deal in this year of that rule that you couldn't leave the bench area.
I think it's a good rule, honestly.
It is, but like one of those three was like one step over the bench area. Like the other two went all the way out on the court, but like one guy was like a step over, and it's like, come on now. He restrained himself. He got to use a little common sense at some point. It's like
when did Adam Silver come in as commit?
Like 2011, 2012.
For some reason I thought it was his first year.
No, this is David Stern all the way.
Fuck David Stern.
Yeah, David Stern's kind of a piece of shit, but we're not here to talk about him.
No, but we do have Malice for this motherfucker.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of David Stern. All right, so let's talk what went down. Do you just want me to try and start? Well, we'll just roll through it naturally and interject as we need to.
Yeah, I mean, a lot fucking went down.
Yeah, there's a lot. So there's gonna be a lot of tangents probably in the middle of this, but just try and stay with us. It's not gonna be as succinct as we probably want it to be. Spoilers for 2004 basket brawl that happened. But seriously, check out the YouTube video. If you just go on YouTube and type in Malice in the Palace or Malice at the Palace, you'll find it. There's a 6-minute version, which is like just the two fights. And there's a 15-minute version where it's what happened in the game. And then it cuts over to like the ESPN studio after show that they always do. And those guys talking about it for a while, where you get a few more camera angles on some things that went down that you don't get in that original 6-minute video.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of that. I mean, it adds to the whole complexity of the situation for sure.
Absolutely, and then we'll link, the main. I'll probably link the 15-minute version since that's like the real full version. The quality is not good on any of them. This is 2004 recording technology.
It's shit.
There's not a good one to be found. And I will also link that All the Smoke episode with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes. And I have a lot to say on that once we get kind of through most of the bulk of this.
Yeah,
because that led some good insight. Yeah, it had some good insight, and there was a lot of stuff. Like I can't include everything that they said. It's a 20-minute video, so I can't include everything they said, but I got some major points on it.
Oh, hell yeah.
November 19th, 2004, Pacers Pistons in Detroit. Indiana leads by 97-82, which is big for them because, they got stomped by them in the playoffs the season before. There's
bench game.
45.9 seconds left. Ben Wallace takes a hard foul on a layup by Ron Artest. Not a hard foul, just like a shot to the head.
That was a booty foul.
Yeah, no, I mean
it was from behind.
He went after him. There was talk in the Wikipedia article and in another article I read from. Let me get the source. I wrote it down. It's called Fan Zone or some shit. Fanbuzz.com. I read another article on it, and they were like, Artest was out to go after him. Once they knew the game was out of hand, like Artest was going to go after them and give like a cheap foul. And so that's what they did. And Steven Jackson in that All the Smoke episode even said he was shooting free throws and he heard someone say, "Ron, go get your foul now." So they knew they were going after him.
Yeah, and I mean I think that's kind of what made it more of an issue. Yeah, if I can say that.
Ben Wallace even said he later claimed that Artest warned him that he was going to get hit. And he did. I mean, it's described as a slap in the back of the head, but he kind of went 2 full forearms, and maybe he just barely slapped in the back of the head. And Ben Wallace is a big dude.
Yeah, he's a fucking... And have you seen his hair?
Yeah.
The guy's got 8 pounds of cushion on top of his head. So, I mean, it probably didn't really hurt him, but I would be pissed nonetheless, too.
Definitely a cheap foul. Wallace comes down, just 2-arm shivers the hell out of Ron Artest.
Oh yeah, right in the throat too, man.
like face, shoulder, neck area, just full on as hard as he could.
Ben Wallace's hands are like 8 feet across, so it covered
pretty
much the entire
stumbles
body.
back pretty far. Like he goes back, and there was a little acting there. I think he's flailing his arms and shit, but like he definitely had some momentum behind him.
It was a flop.
So this is when teammates on both sides intervene to try and separate them. A lot of people remember the fight that went into the stands, but nobody really ever talks about the fight before the fight. That's what's going on here. Is you got Artest and Wallace. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm eager to say something. It's just
go for it.
I didn't really call that a fight though.
Well, it was an NBA fight. Like this is what NBA fights are. They're
this
a little bit.
They were in 2004.
It's still with it. Well, yeah.
Brutal.
So like post mid 90s, this is what NBA fights are. There's a little bit of pushing. Maybe a slap is thrown, some wildly errant punches that have no chance of landing on anything, but people get like really big and throw a really strong punch at complete blank air every time because they don't want to break their hands.
Oh, hell no. They somehow are acrobats.
And about 8 hold me back guys where they're just, with, 4 people holding them back like they're actually going to go do something.
And each one of those guys has 4 people holding them back.
Right, exactly.
Oh my kids' lives, I will fucking kill you.
That's what NBA fights are, and what they have been for 25 years.
It doesn't help that a lot of the NBA players are just tatted the fuck up too, so it's like, yeah, that just kind of supports the image of the wannabes.
Well, that's definitely what they were thinking at the time, and I honestly didn't really remember it before diving back into it here. I didn't remember that this happened, and it's almost as compelling as when they went into the stadium into the stands, just because the 2 initial hits by Artest and Ben Wallace are pretty strong. Then everybody's off the bench, like we said. Tayshaun Prince is the only guy to stay behind, and then there's a massive brawl ball in the middle of the court. Everybody's separated. Ron Artest kind of goes and lays down on the scores table. He puts headphones on his head and he's talking with the local radio guy, but they didn't give him a live mic, thank God.
Yeah, thank God.
They were smart about that. And then like Ben Wallace is throwing shit at him, he's throwing a towel at him, he's throwing other things. Like Ben Wallace won't settle down, so like there was a lot going on. At one point in the video, the announcers go, Steven Jackson, Rasheed Wallace are trying to be peacemakers, and I'm like, well, that's a sentence that's never been said in the world before, and never again.
I was gonna say it will never be spoken, uttered by anyone ever.
Freddie Jones is in this like weird fighting stance, and he keeps just like he's basically shadowboxing himself, and like watch it again and watch. There's this guy, he's like 2 good feet away from where Wallace and Artest are once everybody gets in the middle, and he's just like, he pulls his shorts up a bunch of times, he's kind of bouncing on his feet like he's ready to box somebody, and just nobody is paying attention to him. And that's Freddie Jones.
They're like, get the fuck out of here, dude. He's like, man, I just ate some popcorn, man. Leave
the
fuck alone.
Only thing I remember about Freddie Jones as a player is that he was in like the 2003 dunk contest, and he did this weird thing where he tried to have a random fan in the stands throw him an alley-oop, and he took like 20 tries, and then I don't think he ever made it, or like he caught it and had to lay it up eventually, and was like, all right, fuck that, because this random ass dude can't throw me a pass from 40 feet away. He moved on. Like, that's the only thing I remember about Freddie Jones. I remember this about
Freddie fucking Jones.
You don't watch enough dunk contests, apparently.
Apparently not.
I remember most dunk contests past 2000, but that's for later in the episode where we talk about that, or maybe in the bonus, wherever we get to.
We'll get to.
Yeah, so just kind of moving through the fight. Like I said, Artest lays down on the scorer's table to just relax, puts a headset on to speak to the Pacers radio broadcaster. His name's Mark Boyle. Like I said, Mike not live. What do you think he's saying to this radio broadcaster right now, though?
He's sitting there, he's like, damn.
What if that mic was live?
Oh my God, we probably would have heard some bullshit. Like, man, Ben Wallace smells like ass, man. I need a fucking shower, man. Get something weird like that, talking about flat earth and man baths.
Steven Jackson said at some point, I think I have this in my notes later, but I can say it here, when they're all in the locker room afterwards, like they're talking about what's going to happen, what's the fallout going to be, they're worried they're going to get arrested, things like that, and Artest just goes, you guys think we're going to get in trouble for this?
He's just oblivious, like, what?
And that was after, so this is before everything in the stands happens. And, like, I can put more context to that when I get to that point in my notes, but, like, this is just the shoving match between him and Ben Wallace at this point. And he's just trying to calm himself down. Like, great, fine. And then Wallace throws a towel at him while he's laying on the scorer's table. The refs are kind of just out of it at this time, trying to figure out who should be ejected, who should be suspended, like things like that. They're not. The fight is mostly broken up. They've kind of separated a little bit. Wallace has got some either teammates or team personnel like holding him back a little, and he's still like yelling at.
Yeah, he's just pacing the bench, fucking.
And that's another thing that came out of this.
Throwing his hands up.
The Steven Jackson interview was that he thinks that he remembers that this is when Ben Wallace had just lost a family member too. So like he's already on edge a little bit.
Yeah, it was. I think what made it partially so compelling leading up to this point was when those teams clashed initially after the hard foul and the retaliation from Ben Wallace. Dude, it felt like something, you know, when shit's about to pop off and you can feel it in the fucking air. It felt like that, like water
there was just
about to brim over the edge.
There was just nothing that was calming either of these guys down. You know, Jackson points to that, like, it's partly on the refs and on the Pistons teams because they wouldn't get Wallace out of there quick enough. Like, he's just allowed to stand there and yell and throw more shit at Artest while Artest is, you know, doing mostly the right thing. He's laying on the scorer's table. He's trying to calm himself down. And Wallace just keeps going after him, and nobody's getting Ben Wallace just out of the gym. Like, he's going to be ejected. Get him out. There's 45 seconds left in the game. Move on.
Well, how the fuck do you get this dude out, though? He's a tank, and his teammates are sitting there, I don't know, partially encouraging it, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the hard part of it, because, like, yes, he's a tank. Like, nobody's going to drag him out, but usually in these situations, like, the guy knows, they know that they fought, and that because they fought, they're going to be ejected. And so usually you can calm them enough to be like, all right, let's just get the fuck out of here. Like, you made your point, let's move on. And nobody was doing that. Like you said, the teammates look like they're all just pushing him further and further.
Well, they look like half of them are enjoying it.
Well, yeah.
You know, shadow boxing and shit. And everybody's just trying to get down.
Freddie Jones is on the pace.
He's copying someone else. He's shadow boxing.
I don't know what he was doing, but seriously, if anybody's watching the video, right when they're at midcourt, Wallace and Artest are still going at it. Look, it's like at the very bottom of the group. Freddie Jones is just over there, pulling up his shorts, bouncing. It's the funniest thing in the world because nobody's paying any attention to him. And he's just throwing his hands up like he's ready to fight somebody that is not ever coming because nobody gives a shit about Freddie Jones.
Yeah, no one really gives a shit. But, I mean, when you lose someone, especially if it was someone close, I can't attest to that. I don't know for sure.
I remember, like, a brother or a cousin, a close cousin. Like, it was somebody pretty close. I remember there being talk about someone in his family died. I didn't realize it was close to this until, you know, Steven Jackson pointed that out. I think it actually may have happened in the playoffs the year before, but, like, that's still fresh. And, you know, NBA guys, they don't hold back on each other. Look up some of Kevin Garnett's trash talk through his career. Like,
he's not even comparable. That dude is fucking merciless.
Yeah.
He is like Lucifer on the court when it comes to trash
Well, exactly.
talking.
Like, these guys will go after whatever they can to get under your skin. So I could see how something like that would re-escalate, especially with Artest. He's one of those guys. He's an instigator. Like, he may have been trying to get under his skin. I don't know. I'm not trying to say he did. I'm not trying to say he would use a death of a family member against a player. Like, that's usually not something you do. But
it's been done.
Things happen.
I mean, I think he's very much a Lance Stevenson kind of guy.
I love Lance Stevenson. Come on.
I fucking love him too, but ear blowing and you know what I mean?
He's an instigator, yeah.
He's an instigator. That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
Lance is a weird dude, but I love him.
He is, but that dude can ball.
Yeah, he's good. So Artest stands up to confront Wallace. He's held back by coaches. And then, plastic cup of beer, out of nowhere, hits Artest in the chest. Thrown by spectator John Green.
What kind of booty name is that? You know this dude's from 1776.
This is a very bad choice, my guy.
I mean,
Artest is very well known at this point in his career to just fly off the handle, and he's not somebody that you would ever want to fuck with. I don't care who you are, you're not, like, unless you're Ben Wallace, you're not fucking with Ron Artest. If you're John Green sitting courtside at a Pistons game, who do you think you are that you're fucking with Ron Artest?
Yeah, I mean, you're a normal person, and Ron Artest is 6'7" and fucking mean.
Yoked. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, he's got that crazy. He's got the crazy side of him, man. But this motherfucker threw it, and he was just, I'll never hit him. There's no way. He's probably had 3-4 beers. Didn't think there was any chance in hell he was actually gonna hit him. And lo and behold, God came down and guided the goddamn cup to Ron Artest's face.
Perfect. God came down and perfectly guided it just for us, not for anybody attending this game.
No, he said, all right, homie, here, and
we're going to do something. This NBA season's been a little boring so far. Let's spice it up.
Yeah. Boop. And go. And then they go.
Why do fans feel like they have a right to directly intervene in game? I get maybe a little bit yelling things. I don't agree with racial slurs or going after anything like that. But like yelling, booing, general sportsmanship type things, I get. But like Artest gave a cheap shot foul against Wallace. Wallace and literally everyone else on both teams except Tayshaun Prince retaliated. Why does this random dude sitting courtside think that he gets to attack, for lack of a better term, one of these players? Why does he feel he has that right, that he gets to involve himself in this?
Because people are fucking stupid, man.
Yes.
Not in this. A lot of consumers, in the sense that the customer is always right. They
right.
Have that.
I paid for my ticket, so I can do what I want while I'm in.
Yeah. You have jobs because of me, just like those people that are like, you're a civil servant to cops. You should follow my orders.
I pay your salary, yeah.
Exactly.
Fuck off.
That's fucking whack, people. Come on.
They're the exact same people who burn jersey when their favorite player leaves their team, or attack actors and actresses for movies being bad. Not like physically attack, but verbally attack, or like and, social media attack. Yeah, it's stupid. It's a waste of time. Maybe if like this is Ben Wallace's friend, like maybe he's got a dog in the fight, but like this is just some dude with no relationship to Ben Wallace other than that Ben Wallace plays for his favorite team.
I mean, it's still though. Ben Wallace is a big boy.
Yeah, that's not a relationship, and Ben Wallace handled it in his way.
Yeah,
you don't.
He continued to try to handle it.
You don't get to intervene because you bought a ticket. If you want to intervene in a fight because you didn't like the way it goes, go to a Conor McGregor match and intervene in that, please. I'm begging you, fans that think you get to intervene because you bought a ticket.
See, I mean, I've paid Bears tickets are fucking expensive. I paid a lot of money to go to the Bears game.
Do you feel like you have a right to go out and assault Aaron Rodgers after he torches your team for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns?
I mean, yes. That's not even a question, Calvin. You can't fucking ask me that.
Somebody needs to, because the Bears defense sure as hell isn't doing it, right?
But no, what I'm saying is the most I'm willing to do is scream, you fucking suck. Like,
that's fine.
Quit sucking Packers, dude. You are garbage. And
Mitchell Trubisky, he's talking directly to you.
That's directly to you, or other fans. I've had a lot of like Lions fans. I've been to 3 or 4 Lions games, and they always scream. So I mean, it's somewhere I would never though.
So that was in my experience as a Florida Gators fan. Georgia Bulldogs fans are the worst opposing team fans, and
I bet they're notoriously bad.
Some of the worst, like nationally, they are. They're constantly like barking in your face, throwing as many slurs at you as they can. Like they're just obnoxious, and they're not good fans. I mean, there are some good fans, and then that's a big rivalry. But just even within that, they get out of control very fast for no reason. And the barking doesn't help anything.
No,
don't bark in people's faces.
If you bark in my face,
don't bark in people's faces.
But some people ruin shit for everybody else, and this is exactly what happened, Mr. John Green.
Yeah, fuck you, John Green. So Artest jumps off the table, runs into the stands, and grabs the wrong man, who he thought threw the cup. He grabbed Michael Ryan, who's John Green's friend, which I hope they're not friends anymore. Like,
hell no.
If I just got jumped by Ron Artest because my friend threw a cup at him, I'd be like, dude, nah, this is over. I'm sorry. We can't hang out anymore.
Give me your money or I'll beat your ass too. I mean, the way he throws his hands up, it's like, oh!
He's like, I didn't do it, I swear. So Mark Boyle, the radio announcer who Artest was talking to, he tries to hold him back a little bit, failed miserably. He gets trampled and left with 5 fractured vertebrae and a gouge in his head from Artest going into the stands.
Holy fuck, I didn't realize it was that bad.
Yeah. That was just the announcer, like, who tried to stop Artest from going out there.
Wait, how old was he? Was he like 90?
No, probably 40s, 50s.
Okay. Well, I mean, Ron Artest is a heavy cat.
Yeah. Well, and he was going full steam to beat the shit out of somebody. So Steven Jackson follows Artest into the stands. This is another dude that you do not want to fuck with.
No, this guy probably grew up fighting on the courts, but he didn't even go up with Ron Artest. He fucking appeared at his side. Like, it was immediate. He was instantaneously there. Like, he saw Ron Artest. Just
rails a different fan. William, I think it's supposed to be Paulson. I wrote it with a K, but I think I probably spelled it wrong. Just knocks him in the face. Dead ass, man. As hard as he could.
I felt that shit.
But so he says he went up in the stands to try and hold Artest back, and he did that at first. He tried to restrain him, and then this dude, William Paulson, threw another drink in Artest's face, which also hit Jackson, and that's when he just went straight out. And so basically what was said is Paulson threw a beer in Artest's face as Artest was being held back by other fans at this point. That's when this dude decides to be a tough guy and throw another drink in Artest's face. And that's when Steven Jackson punched him in the face. And honestly, I can't blame him.
I get punching him in the face. I would have punched him in the face, but I'm also not 6'9" and 220 pounds. And you know this dude's boxed a lot before, because the way he punches him,
I don't know that he's boxed, but he knows his form. Like
not
he makes.
I'm saying fighting on the street.
Right, exactly.
I've been in enough scraps that, dude,
he makes sure that his punch is landing and he's not breaking his hand when he does it.
Oh no, and this dude dropped like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, absolutely. So then 5 Pacers and couple Pistons going to the stands. Eddie Gill, David Harrison, Reggie Miller in street clothes because he wasn't playing. Freddie Jones and Jamal Tinsley and Jermaine O'Neal tried to get into the stands, but like got held back. He never actually made it. And then from the Pistons, Rasheed Wallace and several team personnel members ran at Rasheed Wallace, third dude here that just don't fuck with him. And they're all going in there trying to get Artest and Jackson out of there. And on one of the replays, the announcer said a lot of players are going in there at the stands to get Artest out of there, but not Steven Jackson. Like, he went in there throwing hands, and no one was going to stop. Like, he saw a fight going. He's like, oh, fuck, I'm there.
Yeah. Oh, we boxing? All right.
Jamal Tinsley and Reggie Miller, they're in there to pull people off. Steven Jackson was not fucking around.
Well, I mean, fuck, no. He was just waiting for it. He's like, oh, he's fucking rubbing his hands like, oh, hell yeah. Licking his lips and shit, like, yeah, this is about to be dope.
Yeah, he was ready for it. He I don't think he's ever not been ready for a fight. And he said in that All the Smoke episode, he said he hadn't been in trouble in the NBA up to this point. Like, he was, like, when he was younger, he would get in fights and things like that, but like he hadn't had any trouble in the NBA at this point until this. And then there were some other things that happened after this, apparently. But Artest is punched several times in the back of the head as they're pulling him out. Once by Ben Wallace's brother David, who happened to be in the stands. More fans continue to throw stuff at the players. Like, why are these fans not learning their lesson here? Don't throw shit at athletes like they're fucking circus elephants.
It's fucking Detroit, bro.
It's not, though. These are front row seats outside of Detroit to a championship NBA team. Like, these aren't, if it's the top row, okay, yeah, you got some cheap seats up there. You get your real Detroiters there. But, like, these are, like, fucking Wall Street guys.
Who the fuck from Wall Street's going to the Detroit Pistons game?
They're the Detroit, they're Ford upper management, you know? Ford and Chrysler upper management. That's who these guys are.
From Detroit.
Right.
That's what I was saying. That's just something the announcer starts saying pretty much immediately is, what is wrong with these fans? And that's bad. It was almost like a parent shaming their child for acting foolish. That's how these fans were fucking.
I mean, yeah, that's absolutely what it is. And a lot of them started fighting each other too, which is another thing that never gets said. Like,
that's fucking Detroit. That's Detroit fans, man.
There's just a fight going on, so they decide they're gonna throw in and fight.
I walked by a couple of Detroit fans with my wife 2 years ago, and this dude is just "fuck you" screaming and shit. And
you can't blame the Lions fans, man. They haven't won in like 40 years. They have a lot to be pissed off about.
35 years.
That's not true. You won a Super Bowl in 2006. Get out of here, Rex Grossman, man.
I mean, sexy Rexy.
Love Rex Grossman. He's from Florida.
We did not win that Super Bowl.
You sure about that? You won.
We won it in the hearts and minds of Americans, and that's what really matters. Devin Hester.
Well, now I gotta look it up. I can't be wrong on that.
Dude, you're super wrong.
I know you're more likely to be right here, but now I just have to. 1986 was the last time.
Yeah.
Super Bowl 20.
85 Super Bowl Bears. Because
they lost to the Colts. Yeah. Okay, that was Peyton Manning's first.
After Hester ran the opening kickoff back for a touchdown.
I remember that now. Rex Grossman still led you there though, so taking credit for my Rex Grossman knowledge.
Yeah.
So back to this brawl. As Artest is escorted out of the stands, two more fans confront him on the court. He punches one in the face, and the other tried to push Artest away, and they both just fall over. Again, just super tough guys here. As three people are holding on to Artest, trying to escort him off the court. These guys just walk up. So in the 15-minute video where they go to the studio show and everything like that, they show some of these other camera angles, and there's a really good one of this. Basically, it's this dude that looks like Turtle from Entourage just walks straight up to him, dead ass, says some shit, and Artest was just not here for it, and he decked the fuck out of Turtle.
Probably what he fucking deserved.
It wasn't actually Turtle from Entourage, but it would have been cooler if it was, right?
Dude, I agree. But people think they're fucking hard, dude, and then you say some shit to a hard motherfucker, and you get
to an actual real hard motherfucker, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Turtle did not last long. Him and his buddy go down. And as they're standing up, this is when Jermaine O'Neal finally gets his shot.
Dude.
Flies in off the top rope, full sprint, clocks the shit out of him. Full speed. Kind of slips a little because otherwise he would have killed him.
Oh, he would have fucking killed him. Totally. You heard this shit over the commotion of an arena.
Yeah.
I mean, just this full-on pancake of bone on cheek. And it was disgusting, man. I remember hearing it and just going, oh!
This is my most vivid memory of watching the replays of the fight. I didn't see it live. I only saw it on replay. And it wasn't even shown during the initial outbreak. Like I said, it was just on that one of the other angle replays in the after show. The announcers just kind of go, another fight is broken out with fans on the court in the original run through. They tried to flash to it, but it was already gone. You couldn't see anything. But then they show it on the studio show, and I just remember because my friend had told me about it the next day at school. I didn't even really learn that it happened until the next day at school. They're like, "Oh, did you see that?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't. What happened?" And he's telling me about it. And he's like, "All you see is Jermaine, you see a yellow Live Strong bracelet, and then Jermaine O'Neal's cornrows coming into the focus, and the dude goes down." So that was always something. Hard. When I watched it that I remembered vividly because I kind of focused on that because my friend had pointed it out. And there's no Live Strong bracelet to be seen. I think he's got a yellow armband and a yellow headband. But still, the memory stands. It was fucking nasty.
I have a very vivid memory of that day, especially that moment. And oh god, dude, I was watching the game live with my dad. And, we're both just like, oh my god, and he's just sitting there I really need to turn this off, I need to turn it off, I should probably turn this off, but thumb hovering over the remote, off button, and then
you can't actually turn it off.
No, he left it on, and he just kind of got up and left.
So, then O'Neal, after he just decks the shit out of this guy, he's dragged off the court as well. It's mostly calming down. That's kind of the last of the altercation. But
that's when it got real, dude. Everybody was like, "Holy fuck, this guy about died."
And as he's being escorted off the court, another random fan throws what looked like water in his face. They're throwing popcorn. They're throwing Mountain Dew, beer. just everything. And like the look on O'Neal's face, because there's one really good shot of him getting water thrown in his face, like directly in his face by somebody on the tunnel. There's just this look like he's about to murder this guy. And like that fan is super lucky he didn't die right there.
You know that fan booked it away as soon as he possibly could.
Probably. I mean, he was up, he's up a couple levels. He's over O'Neal's head. O'Neal's got some team personnel around him. There wasn't anything happen. But like as they're escorting into the locker room, everybody's going. Steven Jackson is just soaking up every minute of it. He's loving this walk of shame. And he's quoted in an article by The Ringer, or no, this was a interview with Dan Le Batard on ESPN Radio. He's quoted as say, "Let me say this: all the racial slurs, all the things I've heard, all the things I've heard about my mom and my basketball game and my kids, all this, it felt good to punch a fan one time."
Oh, fucking bad.
He said, "I'm not gonna lie, I regret it because I lost $3 million and I almost lost my job, and I regret it. But when I initially went into the stands, I went in there to help Ron. If you look at the tape, I go up a row above to help Ron because I was trying to grab him. Well, as I got up there to grab him, another fan threw another beer in his face. I felt like he got assaulted at the time. So if you're up here, you should be breaking it up. But if you throw a beer, you deserve a lick too. He got it."
No shit. That's an understatement of the fucking century.
And then he goes on, because the Jermaine O'Neal and that first one by Jackson in the stands were probably the two hardest punches thrown.
They were shocking.
Yeah.
Because they were cold, clean.
Because like Artest is going up there and he's not throwing a lot of punches, except
he's like grabbing.
He's pushing and grabbing and trying to like get a hold, kind of wrestle people. He did punch Turtle from Entourage in the on-court thing before Jermaine O'Neal also punched the shit out of him. But those were the only punches, really. So Jackson goes on to say, "I don't think Artest was thinking at the time. Me and Jamal Tinsley, every time I see him, we laugh at this. Right after the brawl, we're in the locker room, and this is why I said Artest never said thanks. So we're in the locker room, legs all scratched up from hopping over the bleachers, our adrenaline pumping. We laid a couple people out like we did something. Know what I mean? We all sit back, and Ron Artest, a.k.a. Meta World Peace, lean back and looks at Jamal Tinsley and asks us, 'Do you think we're going to get in trouble?' So Jackson says, 'Ron, in trouble? We're lucky if we still have a job. That was the funniest thing ever. Trouble. We're lucky we have a job, Ron.'"
I mean, no fucking shit. They are.
Yeah, so that's really funny. And like when you hear that, there's an article by The Ringer that I think I have some quotes on where he says kind of the same things. Jackson talks about it a lot, of like this thing that happened, and the only regret he has is that he lost money and he couldn't play for 30 games or whatever. And like, but he's like, "I'd do it again. It doesn't matter." And he's very open about it. And like, he kind of thinks it's this funny situation now.
I mean, you really have no choice but to try to laugh at it awkwardly. Because, I mean, he lost a lot of fucking money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what he was known for more than anything. Like, I don't really remember Steven Jackson otherwise.
Stacks? Come on, he won a championship in San Antonio. He may or may not have pulled a gun out in a Vegas strip club. He's done lots of things.
He totally fucking did. We already know.
Yeah, no, I don't even think that's alleged. I think he was actually charged with that.
Yeah, probably.
So there's obviously no emergency plan for this type of situation, and players, coaches, security, any other arena team personnel try to break everything up and get everyone calm. Jermaine O'Neal's quoted as saying, "As bad as it looked on TV, it was at least 20 times worse in person." There's a lot of people who say like they literally felt like they were fighting for their lives. I
believe it. I super believe it.
The referees ended up calling the game with 45.9 seconds left. Pacers get the win. 97-82 after all the commotion settles down. As the Pacers left, fans continued booing and throwing things at them, including a folding chair at one point that almost hit Jermaine O'Neal in the face. And generally just remained belligerent.
I'm telling you, man. Fans.
Like, why aren't people just leaving? What the hell is wrong with people that they need to stay there and continue to boo? Like, the game's over. Go home. Why are you still throwing popcorn at Jermaine O'Neal? What are you gaining from that in your life?
Oh, they probably rushed over there like, yeah, let's fucking
I know.
Go.
What is wrong with people? If you are a fan that would throw popcorn in Jermaine O'Neal's face because he punched a fan who tried to punch his teammate, please get at us on Twitter at APA something at alone_podcast, because like, you're fucking crazy. Don't do that.
You're a weenie. If anything, I mean, if you're on the opposite side of the spectrum, I'd like to talk to you too. If you're like, hey, punch me, so you can go around telling everyone like, hey man, fucking Jermaine O'Neal. I took that punch.
I don't know that I got to it. No, I didn't ever mention it. The dude, Turtle from Entourage, that I keep calling him, his name's Charlie Haddad. He had a history of
trying to get beat up.
Basically ambulance chasing at Pistons games. Like, he would go there and try and start shit with players, other fans, anyone he could to try and like get a lawsuit on. Like, so fuck you, Charlie Turtle from Entourage Haddad. Like, that's bullshit.
He was pretty successful too, apparently.
Was he? I didn't look into any like his success rate at that, but I did read that, and I thought I wrote that down, but I guess not. As the commotions dying down, Larry Brown, the Pistons coach, tried to get on the PA, and he tries to like talk down the fans, tell them to calm down. Everything's going off, and he just ends up like throwing the mic down back on the scores table in absolute disgust when nobody shut up.
Oh, hell no. You know, they're all like, fuck you!
Police officers had to eventually swarm the arena and threaten to handcuff anyone who would not leave, and that's when everyone kind of got out. In this swarm, 9 spectators were injured. This is not including the actual fight. This is just in the police swarm. 9 spectators are injured. 2 ended up in the hospital. Police even tried to enter the locker rooms to arrest players, but basically the Pacers rushed Artest and the rest of the team onto the bus and wouldn't let anybody off. And the police decided to just leave. They escorted the Pacers out, and they said they would contact them after reviewing all the film from the incident and stuff like that. And the Pacers agreed to it as well, that like they'd be able to be contacted.
Isn't that wild? How they just, they're like, yeah, okay.
I mean, but what are you going to do? If they arrest them, you know how many fans are still probably out? Like, they had to leave the arena, but they didn't have to leave the area around the arena. Those are public streets. They don't have to go anywhere. So you know how many fans are probably just standing there waiting for one of these Pacers players to walk by? So if you're a police officer and you arrest Ron Artest and walk him out to your squad car, there's going to be 1,000 fans swarming you trying to still throw shit at him.
Well, then it's Detroit. Someone's going to shoot him. It's going to fucking happen. It's like Jack Ruby and fucking Lee Harvey Oswald.
That is probably true. So this is the time that I want to talk about this All the Smoke interview, or it's not an interview, that's their show. It's a Showtime show, I guess. This is just kind of what I got from context. It's a NBA show on Showtime. It's called All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. This episode was from November 20th, 2019, so it was like exactly the 15-year anniversary. They start talking about the Myles Garrett helmet incident where he took off his helmet and tried to beat the shit out of Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
Because that had just happened, so they're talking about that a little bit, which I completely forgot that happened, to be honest.
I thought it was funny.
So much other stuff in the NFL happened since November that like I forgot that a defensive player literally took off his helmet and swung it at somebody's head. So that's fine. Or he didn't take his helmet off. He ripped the helmet off the quarterback.
Yeah, he stole his fucking helmet.
Did it on. Yeah, that's like getting your chain snatched times 10. Getting your helmet ripped off your head and then thrown at you.
Yeah, getting your chain snatched and then they choke you out with it.
So the first thing he says is he's talking about Steven Jackson. He's talking about how like he hadn't really ever been involved in a rivalry like that. Like he said, because he played for the Spurs before, so the only thing they had was like the Spurs and Lakers, which was mostly on the court. It wasn't like a heavy rivalry. They went back and forth, winning championships for a couple years in the early 2000s, but it wasn't like we're going to get in a brawl at any moment type of rivalry. It was who's going to win this game type of rivalry. So he says the Pacers Pistons, that was different. That was some street shit.
Yeah, dude. Obviously street shit.
So, and then going back to when Ron Artest kind of laid down on the table to try and calm himself down, Steven Jackson said, Ron had been told in a therapy session to just find a quiet place and lie down, and that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to calm down, and that's when he says that they wouldn't get Ben Wallace out of there while Ron's trying to calm himself down, which, like, great for Ron Artest in this situation. Literally until the beer's thrown at him.
Oh, yeah. He was trying. It was obvious he was trying.
He said he saw Ron Artest go up into the stands, and he felt like he was basically back in his hometown, and one of his boys just got jumped in the club. Like, he was ready to go. He just had to do it.
Yeah, he didn't give a fuck.
A funny thing is Matt Barnes, who was on the Kings at the time, says that, like, it was during halftime of their game, because they were in a West Coast game, so it's halftime of their game. They all watched what was going on at halftime and were late getting back out on the court after halftime because, like, they just were sat there entranced in what was going on.
I would be.
Yeah, like how do you go and play the rest of your game?
Like, damn, should we do that? Fuck.
We're losing. Should we also start a fight like that?
Yeah, they're getting hella ratings.
But so he talks a little bit about when he first went up into the stands. He said he went up to grab Ron, but somebody else threw another beer at him, and that's when he lost it. He said the guy that threw the beer was lucky someone grabbed him, being Steven Jackson. Lucky someone grabbed him because he was finna stomp him out. Like, he was like, I was going to put him down. His teeth were about to be on the curb, and I was going to stomp him out.
I believe it.
Which, that curb stomping is just a whole different level up above just like this brawl. Like, you curb stomp somebody in the middle of this brawl, it's over for me.
It's like basically murder.
Yeah. I mean, we all have seen American History X.
Yeah.
And know that gut-wrenching scene. You don't even see it. You just hear the teeth go on the curb, and then you hear the cracking.
Shut up.
Sorry. But just imagine for a minute if that happens in the middle of an NBA game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they'll never be able to... NBA would be done. It'd be over after that. Or the Pacers would be over.
It would now be the XBA.
Yeah. The XBA. I like it.
And they just kind of talk about throughout this whole thing. It's a really great video. If you have time, check it out. It's 20 minutes long. And I'll link it in the description and on the tweets that go out on this. They talk a lot about how much just general, mostly verbal abuse they take on a day-to-day basis. And like, that's super true. Everybody's always yelling shit at them. You see it like with Russell Westbrook in recent years. Chris Paul gets bad about it sometimes, of just like, they snap on fans because they're just constantly getting shit. So somebody says the one thing to push them over, and it's like, I could see how that piles up in your psyche until you snap. And then somebody throwing a beer at you is at a whole other level of that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a breaking point.
I mean, we get plenty of hate here on a podcast about something, and it piles up. I'm finna stomp somebody out.
Please don't.
We don't get any hate.
I worry about you.
You haven't actually made it until you get your first 1-star review. So hit us with some 1-star reviews on iTunes if you hate us.
Shh, we're gonna get like 50.
Absolutely.
Okay. Don't do it.
So that's what Steven Jackson says. He goes, anywhere else you throw a beer in someone's face, that's assault. And he kind of goes on, he says some other things. He goes on and say, you do it to me when I'm in an NBA game, and I'm the one that gets suspended for 30 games because of it.
Yeah, because you fucking
whooped
this dude's ass.
It wasn't that the beer got thrown at you that you got suspended, but yeah.
That's not the point. The beer, yeah, I mean, would it burn your eyes a little bit? Like, my eyes. I mean, you fucking hit this dude so hard. You know, his entire face was swollen, and his teeth probably shifted 3 inches to the left.
Yeah, so he kind of alludes that the worst part for him was that he couldn't play basketball for the time of the suspension, and then for the rest of his career, he got labeled as a bad guy, and he feels he lost out on like all-star spots, which get you bonuses, higher contracts, because he had gotten this reputation now as a bad guy. And in this case, he feels like he was just trying to help his teammate out who was getting assaulted. But this isn't completely fair because, as we said, he had some off-the-court issues after this as well. So you can't really put it all on the brawl.
No, and at the same time, I mean, you can see intent clear as day on that video. I believe it when he says that, I was going to stomp this motherfucker out.
Yeah.
And that's what it looked like he was going to do. So, I mean, he looks like a bad guy. What do you want? He didn't just get labeled nonchalantly.
So, at the end, Barnes asked him, would you do it again? All that being said, we just talked about it for 20 minutes. Would you do it again? And his answer sums up to, yes, that's just how I am.
Which, yeah, just like fucking crushing faces.
So we got to start wrapping up a little bit, but we got to talk about the fallout. What happened to the teams? What happened to the players? What happened to the fans? We will not get to NBA All-Star Weekend on this episode, but check for a bonus episode coming very shortly. Or if you're not listening on the release day, it's probably already out there. So let's talk fallout. For the teams, not much really happened with the teams. No loss of sponsorships, anything like that. The biggest thing that I saw was that changes were made, especially at the Palace at Auburn Hills, in how players and fans are separated from one another to prevent this from happening again. The Pistons said they beefed up security for the next few home games, but then dialed it back down to normal levels. I like that. Like they said, they're trying not to overreact. This is a truly unprecedented situation, and honestly, it's a 1 in a million thing. I don't think it's going to I don't think it would ever happen again. First of all, because the fans that started it got the shit stomped out of them, so you'd be crazy to go after an NBA player after seeing what they're capable of.
Oh yeah, like that looks cool. Yeah, let's try
Yeah,
that.
I don't think anybody's doing that. But I like the idea that okay, we need to beef up security, like just so nobody tries anything stupid in the immediate wake. But there's no reason to overreact and go crazy and have fucking armed guards surrounding the whole court.
Yeah, definitely not.
And then the NBA imposed some new security guidelines in the next season for all NBA arenas to ensure no more Malice would take place at any other palaces. So they increased security presences. A few of the guidelines included size limit for alcohol purchases, limit to 2 alcoholic beverages per purchase for any individual person. Also banned alcohol sales in the fourth quarter, which was pretty common practice anyways at the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say that shit all sounds normal.
Yep. And then the league ordered each team to place at least 3 security guards between players and fans, which okay, that's probably fair.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So, what was the fallout for the players?
Dude. All right. So Ron Artest.
Yeah, we got 9 players in total that were suspended for the whole thing.
I'm gonna rapid fire first.
Do it.
I'm gonna go suspension and then salary loss due to
Perfect.
suspension.
That's what
so
I've got.
Ron Artest, 86 games, the 73 in the season and 13 playoffs for $5 million. That's a lot of fucking money.
Yep. His was by far the steepest. Well, which I mean it should be because he was the most egregious person in the whole thing.
He also didn't have that high of a salary if you think about it, because Steven Jackson was 30 games for $1.7, $1 million.
Right. I mean, yeah, Ron Artest basically lost a whole season of play and lost $5 million. So he's $5 million a year there.
And then fucking Jermaine O'Neal, 15 games, $4 million.
Yeah, that's rough.
111,000.
I mean, Jermaine O'Neal by far was the most prominent player involved in this. Maybe you could argue for Ben Wallace, but Ben Wallace really only because they just won the championship. Jermaine O'Neal had been a force for several years at this point.
He was, he was the dominant big man in the league at
I guess
the time.
Reggie Miller might have been more prominent, but he was in street clothes. He wasn't even playing in the game. He only got one game.
At the end of his career. I mean, he was done.
Yeah.
Ben Wallace, he got 6 games, $400,000. Anthony Johnson, 5 games, $122,000. Reggie Miller got $60,000 for a game. Same with Chauncey Billups.
These are just their game by game salaries basically at this point.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it makes sense that Reggie Miller's making the most money.
Yeah, and I mean, there's 4 players suspended for just one game, ranging from $60,000 to $48,000.
Yep.
And either way, $50,000 for one night of sitting on the bench.
So the craziest part I found about this was that Derek Coleman's single game salary was the same as Chauncey Billups's in 2004. Like Derek Coleman lost 50 and Chauncey lost 60 for one game. Like that's crazy that they're at the same level, game by game.
I mean, yeah, and
Derek Coleman is no Chauncey Billups or Reggie Miller. Let me just say that.
I don't even remember who the fuck Derek Coleman was.
He was like a 7th guy off the bench, like good role player, but not a great player by any stretch of the means.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. I didn't find anything on like if any players lost sponsorships. Again, these aren't like huge names. Jermaine O'Neal may have been at risk for it, but he was kind of an ancillary thing. He came after the fact. His was all retaliation for the most part. Nobody else lost anything that I could see. But several of the players did face legal penalties as well. Ron Artest, Jermaine O'Neal, Steven Jackson, Anthony Johnson, and David Harrison all faced similar legal penalties, which were generally 1-year probation, $250 fine, range from like 40 to 60 hours of community service and anger management therapy.
Yeah, they got not necessarily the book thrown at them, but for NBA players, they got the book thrown at them.
Yeah, especially Artest. Like being out for a full season is rough on an NBA player.
Oh yeah, I mean that's like being out of the workforce for a year. People
exactly.
Do not look on that favorably.
Well, and that was what Steven Jackson was saying, was like he just had nothing going on in his life. He wasn't getting paid. He couldn't play the game he loved. He couldn't do the one thing he was best at. So he was just like roaming around trying to find shit to do and smoking a bunch of weed.
I mean, that beats a poke in the eye.
I guess.
I'd say so.
So, fallout for the fans involved. I didn't put this on our original outline, so if you didn't go into it, I understand. I just found it as I was researching, like literally just before we started recording. So John Green, who was the fan that originally threw the cup at Ron Artest, that started the whole thing. Artest says that when he went into the stands, he never intended to throw any punches, but just rather grab him by the shoulders and shake some sense into him. Artest, however, grabbed Green's friend by mistake, and then Green and Artest have both since made up after Artest reached out to Green on Twitter. And then in a radio interview for ESPN in 2012, Green said that Artest, now known as Metal World Peace, was a quote-unquote good guy, and that they started talking and hit it off. Like, fuck that. No way. I'm not doing it.
What would you do if he paid him some money? He's like,
I'm
listen,
sure.
dude, I'll give you $100,000 to just go the fuck away.
Yep. So Green says he apologized and I did. It came from him, and it takes a lot to do something like that. Like, first of all, you should be apologizing first because you threw a fucking beer at another person. That's a trash move.
Just because you got your ass beat. Like, come on, dude.
John Green served 30 days in jail and 2 years probation for a misdemeanor assault and battery conviction. Good.
Yeah, deserves that.
Charlie Haddad, he's the one, Turtle from Entourage, that I keep saying. He punched Jermaine O'Neal, or punched by Jermaine O'Neal and Ron Artest. He tried to sue Jermaine O'Neal and also himself received 2 years probation and community service. Excuse me, 2 years probation and community service.
Still got fucked by the long dick of the law, and he tried to sue and lost.
David Wallace, who's Ben Wallace's brother, who was part of the whole melee as well, he served a year of probation and community service. Bryant Jackson, I'm not quite sure who he was in all this, but he was charged with one. I think he might have been Charlie Haddad's friend who was up there with him when they confronted Artest.
Yeah.
He's charged with 1 count of felony assault and 1 count of misdemeanor assault and battery, sentenced 2 years probation and $6,000 in restitution. Again,
damn, good. $6,000 in restitution. That's pretty
good.
Steve.
We pretty much already talked about how we experienced the night. Did you have any more on that?
Not really. I was just, kind of moving through, catching the end of the game with my dad, and it started happening. It was like, holy.
Yeah, it would have been crazy to catch live. And then, so for me, these kids are talking about it at school. Everybody's talking about it. And I go home, and this is pre-YouTube. So, like, it's really hard to find a good video. ESPN's done showing it. Like, they showed it that night, but they did no more coverage after it, after the initial night.
It was a blackout.
I found one eventually, and it was mostly just the stuff in the stands, not the fight before. Couldn't really see the Jermaine O'Neal stuff. It was grainy as hell, since, again, the networks weren't releasing full videos anymore. But I do remember once YouTube was a thing, and I discovered that YouTube was a thing, it was one of the things that I sought out and tried to find, like, a better video of.
Definitely. That was an early viewing on YouTube,
yes,
for sure.
Absolutely. So yeah, just the kid told me about it in school, and I made sure I looked for Jermaine O'Neal, because I'm glad I did, because you might have missed it if you weren't looking for him.
No, yeah, I agree.
All right, so this is the big question for the episode. Who do you think was at fault in this situation? We have a Twitter poll. We didn't get much feedback. Thanks, dicks.
You fucking dicks.
At APA something on Twitter, we did a Twitter poll. We're talking Malice at the Palace and hashtag NBA All-Star 2020 when we record tonight. Who is most at fault for one of the most outrageous brawls in NBA history? Ron Artest got 37.5% of the votes. The fans got 50% of the vote. Ben Wallace, 12.5% of the vote. And the refs got 0%. I'm really surprised that one person didn't say the refs.
Yeah,
just because fuck the refs. Yeah. Always.
Always.
So that is at APA something. Every week we usually do a poll. Check that out. You can also find Nick on Twitter at @alone_podcast if you want to hit him up for some knowledge. But you guys didn't participate this week, and we hate you now.
Yeah, we expect heavy participation next week.
Yes, we want solid participation. We're talking Avengers and Justice League next week. We need participation.
Dang. Sneak peek.
So who do you think is really at fault in this situation, Nicholas?
The fans.
100%
the fans, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. They deserve every little bit that they got. It was scary to see. It was fucking wild to see, but they deserve that shit.
Yeah, you don't throw shit at entertainers. Like, they're not I said circus elephants earlier, they're not dancing monkeys. Like, you don't just get to throw shit at people because you don't like what they did.
It's not fucking cool. It's just not cool.
No, not at all. Artest has some work to do on himself, but honestly, he was already riled up from the original fight, and then someone chucks a beer at him. What the fuck's he going to do in this situation? Like I said, NBA fights are pretty tame for the most part. It's
Agreed.
shoving and errant punches thrown, and everybody's holding everybody back. That's all it is. The fans escalated a situation that was on its way to de-escalating for absolutely no reason, and this dude that threw the first beer, John Green, is just a complete piece of shit. Like, I have no sympathy for him.
No. Agreed.
And then you add the fact that many of the fans stormed onto the court, continued to throw shit, and just generally turned into a mob. Like, that does not reflect well on the city of Detroit and surrounding areas.
No, it did not help my opinion.
I still don't get why people aren't just leaving the arena. Like, what are you going to accomplish at this point by being in there, other than Charlie Haddad, who's clearly chasing a paycheck?
Yeah, the paycheck, or the fact you can say, I threw beer on an NBA player. Woo!
Yeah. And one last time to Charlie Haddad, what the fuck is going on with your life, dude? Get something better to do. What would possess you to go several times and try and instigate fights with NBA players, team personnel, people in the stands? Like, there are better, easier, less getting punched in the face ways to scam money out of people. Figure that shit out.
He's like, I just gotta get hit in the face. It's the only way.
Do you have anything else on the Malice at the Palace?
I do not have anything else on the Malice in the Palace.
I do not either. That was a lot of fun. I thought it would be short, but it wasn't, because this was a scene, man.
Yeah, we kept it to an hour. I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
I could talk for hours about this shit. It was wild.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's one of those things, like, every 5 years you got to just revisit it and see what it's like.
Absolutely. But I mean, ironically, when we breached the subject of talking about it, I had just talked to my coworker about it like 3 or 4 days prior.
Well, I didn't even thought. I've been trying to find, because we want to. NBA All-Star Weekend is next weekend. I love NBA All-Star Weekend, which we'll talk about the bonus episode coming up in a minute. But I wanted to talk about something NBA to kind of garner some of that momentum from NBA All-Star Weekend, right? And I'm like, I've got kind of like a half MJ, half-baked idea out there. I've got, kind of going over favorite positional players, things like that. I didn't really have anything good, and you're just like, Malice at the Palace. And I'm like, yep, that's it. We're done.
Yeah, let's do it.
Very easy. Very fun to research, and I learned some things that I would have never known otherwise. I will link that FanBuzz article I talked about. I'll link the 2 YouTube videos I watched in the description and on Twitter when we put this out. So if you're looking for anything on it, go there first. There's a lot of great stuff out there, though. Grantland, I think the archives of Grantland.com are still out there. They did a article on it at one point. Just, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Go find it, because it's awesome.
Yeah, it's hella fun to read.
It was a shit show, but it was like an awesome thing to be an outsider on. Let's say that.
It's something you can't look away.
Yeah. So thank you for listening. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at APA something, at @alone_podcast. Check out the merch store over at tpublic.com/podcast about something, or I think it's /APA something. Patreon is patreon.com/podcast about something. We do all kinds of bonus shit over there. So check that out. Give us 5-star or 1-star reviews on iTunes. Any feedback is great. But I don't like the idea of just giving us a 1-star to give us a 1-star. Like, really go after us if you're going to give us a 1-star.
Yeah, you got to listen to several episodes. At least 5, actually.
Yeah, maybe 15. Shit, make it 50.
Yeah, 50.
Thanks again. All of the music for Podcast About Something is provided by those cats.
You guys stay sassy.
Stay classy.